Good morning and welcome back to 501c TV. I'm Janelle Harris. Thank you for joining us today. This is the podcast that talks to system change leaders, thought change leaders, nonprofits, nonprofit partners to find out what's new and exciting in the industry. And today, you guys, I have such an exciting show for you. This is a little bit of a different format. So usually we have on nonprofits and we're highlighting their mission, and we're going to do that today. But we have some invaluable information for you guys. I know there's a lot of nonprofits that tune in here, and we're going to give you some tips and tricks today from an all-star team I've got with me today. Diana Stanley, CEO of The Lord's Place. Hello, Diana.
Good morning. How are you?
Welcome. Thank you. And Sarah, also from the Senior Director of Community Relations from GL Homes right here in South Florida. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for having us.
And I am, like I said, so excited to have you guys here today because I oftentimes on our show, we talk about how difficult it is sometimes to find like the perfect, amazing partner for a nonprofit and a corporate partner.
Sure.
And so these two ladies have graciously come in today to give us some tips and tricks and behind the scenes and the questions that everybody wants to know, but maybe doesn't even know to ask or doesn't know how to get their foot in the door and how to link up with a great partner. And I know you guys have like a really long partnership.
We do.
And I'm excited to let you guys dive in. And maybe you guys can both just start talking about your respective organizations, and then we'll dive into how you guys partnered up and what that looks like today. And then, of course, tips and tricks. There's a lot to talk about today. We're gonna shove it all into 30 minutes. So without further ado, let's get going.
Well, I can just say a little bit about the Lord's Place.
Yes.
So we've been providing services to the homeless for over 45 years in Palm Beach County, and it's been just an honor and a pleasure to be able to take care of men and women and children and families who are in need of housing. And so I've been at the Lord's Place for 16 years, and it was about maybe my 10 years ago, 11 years ago, I got a phone call from Sarah, who I had known in the community, but she had
Janelle, she's about to tell you a really good story. And for anybody listening, no, this is like a once in a lifetime.
Oh my gosh.
Once in a lifetime phone call. Don't anybody else get any ideas.
Okay, all right, I'm excited.
And I can remember exactly where it happened. I was driving over the bridge to Palm Beach for a lunch, and Sarah called, and I couldn't pick up the phone, and she left a message. Okay. And the message was as follows. Diana, it's Sarah also from. I'm now with GL Homes, and I wondered if you would like some money. And if you would like some money, you need to call me back. And I was like, what in the world?
You're like, is this a joke?
Exactly.
Is this for real?
And I'm like, oh, hello, Sarah, it's Diana. And that really started a really deep friendship of respect and mutual alignment with our goals at the Lord's Place and their goals as GL Homes. So that's how really that started.
And off we went.
I love it. Okay, so what's the other side of this? You're going through your list of names. You're like, let me call Diana, and then you made the call.
Actually, Diana Stanley in the Lord's Place was the first phone call I
love that.
in my job.
That's so cool.
So GL Homes, we're a home builder.
Yes.
Been around since 1976. We are a Florida home builder, and we build single-family homes throughout not only Palm Beach County, but in Port St. Lucie, all over on the West Coast, Tampa, Collier County, Lee County. And so our philanthropic focus as a company primarily is homelessness. We have since expanded that since COVID to address hunger relief, education, and children. But primarily it is homelessness. And certainly this is the go-to organization and woman to ask if you would like some money. Yes. That infamous question that I asked. And so we've had a really unique partnership, I think.
Absolutely.
Several things, and we discussed this before coming on the podcast, because what is our secret sauce, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And we really think it's, Sarah and I, people watch us from afar and they say, what is it with this friendship and this partnership? And as we started to really digest this and drill down on it yesterday, I think it comes back to respect. We have such mutual respect for each other. And I have such deep respect for GL Homes and what they stand for and what they mean to the Lord's Place and to other agencies in town. But it even goes beyond that. My respect for the people at GL Homes, starting with Sarah and ending with some of their vice presidents that I've gotten to know. So I think anytime we talk about relationships from a nonprofit to a corporation, the foundation has to be respect. You've got to respect one another. You don't always have to agree with each other.
Right.
Correct.
Oh my
Right.
gosh, we've had some
Right.
moments.
Right.
Oh yes. We've had many moments where we've kind of looked at each other and thought, I don't agree with you and you don't agree with me. But I think what's been really wonderful is that when we don't agree with each other, we don't make that as vocal in front of people.
And we don't make it personal.
Exactly.
It's never a personal
Exactly.
attack.
Correct.
Right?
Right.
It's about the greater good of the mission,
Exactly
and
It is.
at the end of the day.
It is.
Yeah.
And we have more in common
Yes.
than not.
Yeah.
That's
Awesome.
key too.
Okay, perfect. So when we talk about a partnership like this, what does that mean? What does that bring to GL Homes? What does it bring to the Lord's Place specifically? Like, what are all the good things that come along with that? And why, if I'm a nonprofit and I'm trying to get somebody that's aligned with my mission and my goals, what am I looking for? What's going to make that work?
Why don't you start with what they need to do first
Yeah.
for anybody, because that's the key, I think.
So, let's address some things that I think your viewership's going to think this is really obvious, but as the corporate partner, and I'll just say I just also want to say to everybody listening, corporations, we talk to one another. Those who manage the philanthropic arms of companies,
Correct.
we talk to one another and we share war stories, and your reputation precedes you.
I'm sure.
So please know that as well, that you're not just working in a silo, and don't think we're not going to share our horror or our war stories with others.
And a question for you, is it typically the, community relations, is that typically who's going to be handling that philanthropic arm at
It
a
is.
corporation?
Yeah,
Okay,
it is.
perfect. Because I think
Yes.
that's good to know too. I think some people just, they might look at a Lord's Place and go, oh my gosh, there are so many people here. Where do I start?
Yeah.
Who do I go to? I call Diana.
Well, and I do think it's important that the role of the CEO is not somebody that sits behind the desk.
Totally.
I mean, and I think Sarah knows that's why I really think that we've been successful in this community, because I believe it's my responsibility to build those relationships, right? And then share those relationships with people within my organization. But I think so many times people say, well, how did you get to GL Homes? Like, how do you build those relationships, whether it's GL Homes or some other
Correct.
corporations? And I go back to her one sentence, which is what? Do your
Homework.
There you go.
Okay, I love that. Yes.
So let's talk about that,
Yes.
right? Because there are people, okay, let's get to the meat of this,
Yes.
okay? So if you call me up, so let's say number one, your organization deals with, I'm making something up, and no offense if you deal with this, but I'm just trying to throw something out that is completely disparate from what we do. So if your organization saves cats, okay? Our organization, as I just said, we deal with homelessness,
Right.
hunger relief, children, and education. While your charity may be very worthy,
I get it.
okay, we don't work with cats. We don't save cats. We don't feed
Right.
cats. So this may not be a good fit. And I think
Makes
people
sense.
need to know that going into it. So that's number one, do your
Okay.
homework.
Got it.
Something else that I have seen time and time again, and again, this is so simple, but more often than not, it's not done. And whether that's a little nonprofit or whether it's a nationally recognized name, they'll sit with me, say you do have a phone call with me, or we meet for coffee or lunch. You say to me, well, tell me about your company. And I feel like saying, it's called glhomes.com. Everything you need
Yeah,
to know. We are not a top secret organization. We are in the business of building
Correct.
homes, and we want you to know about our company. We want you to know where we're located. And again, I make no secret of that, but I seem to have to answer those rudimentary questions. So, do you only build homes in Florida? They'll say, and I'll say, well, yes. And if you look at the homepage of our website, you'll see an outline of the state
Exactly.
of Florida.
Yes.
And then, well, where in Florida do you build homes? And then, well, that state of Florida has every little dot
Pinpointed.
for a city of where we build.
And people
yeah.
ask me all the time. They say, like, well, how do you ask for the money? And Sarah's right. I mean, you don't walk in and ask for money if you haven't done all of that research.
Right.
Correct.
So that's the biggest, right? You know, how do
Right.
you ask? And my thing is, as a nonprofit, is to look at the corporation you're dealing with, like Jail Homes, and to know what we are aligned with.
Correct.
So when I have an idea, I will sit and I will think, now, is that something GL Homes would be interested in doing? Or is that something maybe that's not up there, ballot, and we're going to go and we're going to try someone else?
Correct.
Right.
And I do think it's important that one of the other things that makes this relationship, I think, so special is she can say no to me, right? And she can say, you know, this doesn't feel right. And I'm like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
And I can say, okay, then I'm going to have to find someone else to do it. I mean, I think there's this deep we talked about respect at the beginning.
Yes.
But then the next piece is honesty.
Yes, trust.
Oh, yeah.
Like a marriage,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Any relationship,
Exactly.
it's based on respect
Right.
and trust.
Totally.
Exactly right.
Makes sense.
And so I think people think, how do you ask for the money? And the question is, I spent years trying to teach people how to ask for funding, and it's not about the ask; it's about the alignment. It's about making sure that when you go to Sarah and you say, you know what, I'm really interested in you sponsoring the breakfast, because the breakfast is a business. It works for them, right?
Right.
Their name's there. It's part of their business world. That's part of what the ask is about. And people say, should you give them the number? Should you give them a number of how much money should you ask for? And we've talked about this. Sometimes I'll say, yeah, I need X amount of money. And sometimes I say, well, what do you think?
Sure.
So I think that's that relationship
It's a
piece.
give and take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it's
a
almost like a
compromise.
brainstorming session. I mean,
It is.
because sometimes, I don't know, if I'm putting an event on, maybe it's the first time I've done it and I've never done it before, and I give you a number and you're like, oh no, that's not going to be near enough. Like, you might have the expertise in that to know that that's not going to work.
Exactly.
And again, to be able to have those conversations
Absolutely right.
and be honest and upfront, I think is super important. I think that's a really great point.
And we go back to, again, do your homework about that company.
Yes.
So you take the 10 minutes to research us, which saves the corporation 30 minutes of explaining who we are.
Exactly.
And it is truly appreciated when somebody can come in and have even a basic understanding of who we are
Right.
and what we do.
Right.
And I think that helps with the ask.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
As you said, it's not something intuitive. I mean, it is research based in that you have an understanding of what we want.
Sure.
But then I think that also goes to something else about a relationship, and that's communication.
Always.
Right?
Right. Right.
That maybe it isn't something that is a perfect fit. But I would say for the charity, don't try to shove a square peg into a round hole.
Totally.
Listen.
Yep.
If the corporation is saying, no, this doesn't work for us, don't keep pushing and pushing, because that's also very off-putting to the corporation.
Correct.
I've said no.
Right.
It's
Right.
not, no doesn't mean you're going to get me to yes.
Right.
No
Sure.
means no.
Yeah.
And maybe there's something else, but it's not that.
Absolutely.
And I think being able to know, I got to tell the story because I'm a storyteller, everybody knows. So
I love this.
Being able to, when you should have said no and you didn't say no. So this is the other part of this relationship is
Okay.
our honesty about 6 years ago, I said, oh, Sarah, I have the most wonderful idea. I have this idea at Christmas where I want to do a children's giving room, where I want to set up at our family campus a beautiful, like a store where the children can come in and pick out presents for their mom and dad and their grandparents and their loved ones, and we can wrap it, and it would be great for GL Homes. And we both, oh, isn't that the most loveliest thing ever? Until we discovered that we didn't have any space to put all of the stuff we had ordered on Amazon and Walmart and all the
Yes.
places. And so guess where they ended up?
So
In your
$10,000
house?
worth of merchandise ended up in my living room.
Say.
To the ceiling.
Yeah. Garage, living room.
And I
No,
can-
just the living room.
Just the living
Just
room.
the living room.
I
and I
believe you.
can, and I will tell that story to colleagues because it's also the story where it could have gone south for both of us. I mean,
Right.
it really could have gone south. She was not happy. I was not happy. It's Christmas. We're crazy. It's a
Yes.
pet peeve of mine when people are not sensitive to the work that we're doing while they're talking about giving a donation. Right? That's one of my things.
Right.
But what happened was our honesty. right? I could hear it in her voice, and I'm like, oh, God, Sarah, I am so sorry. I said, we really blew this one, didn't we? I said, well, we're not doing that one again, are we? And we could laugh about it, but at the time, we were not laughing.
Yeah,
it was a painful
Very
time.
stressful, yes.
But then at the end, because of our respect for each other, we were able to move on and realize that GL homes, that wasn't their thing at that moment, and then we were able to find some solutions.
Sure.
But I share that story because there will be times in any relationship that something goes south.
Of course.
And it's going to decide on how you respond to it.
Right.
To see if it's
and how
going
you
to
move
maintain.
forward. Yes, I think that's so important.
yeah,
That's a great story.
Yeah.
Okay, so going along with,
Can we give you some pet peeves?
yes, I'm looking at number one pet peeve, and I'm like, let's talk more pet peeves because I mean, not to be like negative, but I think it's important for people to know these things because if you're approaching somebody big like a GL Homes and you know, maybe it is a good fit. So you've crossed the first barrier and it is a good fit. Mission wise, it makes sense. You know, we're not cats in GL Homes. We've gotten that off the list. What other things can kind of like, you know, cause a misstep because we don't want that to happen if we know it's a good fit. So I think that's good.
First?
You can go.
Okay.
You can go.
So I get this frequently. So it's somebody that I already have a current relationship with.
Okay.
All right. And this person copies me on an email to somebody that it's a stranger.
Okay.
And said, oh, I'm copying Sarah also from, because you should contact Sarah to be on your committee, to give money, to sponsor this event. Sarah can mentor you.
Just a blind.
I'm sure she'd be happy to spend 5 hours of her time. You're new to town and explaining how you should do your job. Sarah's great. And now I feel like my back is against the wall. Right?
Yes.
So and now you're wondering, well, gee, how did she handle this? So a couple of things. Depending on how well I know you. So if I know you well, I will pick up the phone and call you and pretty much say, now, why did you do that?
Yes.
Why did you think that was a good idea?
Exactly.
And sometimes it's interesting to hear the response, which is, well, gee, I thought you would do this. Or two, something about you say yes to everything.
Oh, no.
I really don't. So that person to me is not being respectful of my time. There was no courtesy. There was no consideration. I have said to some people, I don't know this other person, and I'm going to let you explain to that person why I'm not responding.
Yeah.
Right.
And
put it
this
back
is
on
your
there.
problem, and I'm putting it back on your lap.
That's a great response.
Now, if it's somebody that I don't know well, this introducer, and then there's a stranger,
The
included
introducer.
The introducer. You know who you are out there. I will just politely hit reply all and politely say thank you so much for whatever you've tried to butter me up with.
Yes.
But
I'm not doing it.
Ain't no way.
I don't have time for that.
Pet peeve.
Exactly.
I can understand that.
And my
It's like you're
pet peeve for corporations is the fact that they do not always understand the world that we're living in, right? Corporate world is very different than the nonprofit.
Yes.
So here we are on a typical day dealing with human suffering, you know, dealing with emotions of trying to care for people that are struggling with addiction and mental health and poverty. And you have a corporation that will call you in the midst of all this and demand something because they made a gift to you, they can make that phone call.
Gotcha.
And one of the things I so appreciate about Sarah is the fact that she used to work in nonprofits, so she understands our world. So she can hear it in my voice in a moment where she'll say, you know what, why don't I call you tomorrow? And I'll be like, thanks, we've got 500 fires we're putting out here.
Yep.
So I'm going to say, if corporations are listening to this, to be sensitive to the work that the nonprofits do on a daily basis. And a gift does not give you the right to think that you're at the top of the list.
Totally.
Immediately. No, we're going to continue to love on you, and I think that's the other really important piece, right? The relationship and loving and caring for each other and responding, but being sensitive to each other's world is really an important piece, I think.
Yeah, it's that delicate, you know, it's kind of like an always, like a dance. You're always, you know, kind of making sure everybody's feeling good and, and the mutual respect.
Communication, listen, have some empathy.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
But I think that's huge because you do have that background. See, I didn't know that.
Yes, she does.
I think that's so important.
I think the other piece is that Sarah and I are very honest. So like she'll be one of the very first people I'll call when we have a breakfast, and I'll say, okay, let's debrief with me. Let me hear. But one of the things she does, and I love this part, and I'm encouraging others, is we celebrate first, right? It was a great event. God, I couldn't believe how many people showed up. I love this speech. I love this. Okay, now let's digest a little bit of what we could do differently.
Yeah.
So we need to honor and celebrate each other and the successes that the nonprofit has. And then at that point, that gives you the ability, right, to talk about how we can be better. Because nonprofits always want to be better than we can. That's what we don't accept mediocrity.
Yeah.
Never would.
And every year, and I mean, you guys have been around 40 years?
45 years.
45 years. I mean, the longevity, when I hear that from various nonprofits, it's just really great. I mean, it's unheard of in a lot of different places. Right. So
and
it's really
Janelle,
cool.
I wanted to touch on something that Diana said. And so this is, I've kind of knocked our charity partners who may be listening in the head a little bit. So I'm going to give them a reprieve and talk to my other corporate brethren. If you give money to maybe it's a project, I think the corporation and GL Homes tries to do this. We do not want to take anything out of pocket from the nonprofit. So I'm going to use one example.
Okay.
Don't expect a free seat at an event.
Got you. I think that is
that's money
huge.
out of that charity's pocket. They have to pay for the food in front of you. Maybe there's valet, what the centerpiece on the table.
Correct.
This is not a free seat.
Right.
That seat is paid for once you sit there.
Yeah.
And so you put the charity in a very difficult spot when you do that. And maybe people listening don't realize that. And hopefully they're educated now that there is a cost to that.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point, and that's why I love having you here in the middle, because you're kind of like a buffer for both ends, because you've been there, and because of you guys' longstanding partnership. That's a huge point, because I think a lot of people, if you're not in the nonprofit world, you don't understand the price that is tagged to every single thing going in and out of the doors of that nonprofit.
And
that's
it's
an awesome point.
It isn't, because we don't want people to feel entitled, right? And so I always say to my nonprofit friends, and people have heard me say this before, it's really critical that you align yourself with people you like.
Yes, I hear this all the time
I'm not
too.
kidding you. That you like, that if you're going to sit and have a cup of coffee with that person, right? That's somebody you would want in your world, whether you were in that nonprofit or not.
Correct.
And that is the game changer, I think, is you maintain relationships. People say, well, how do you continue to do this? And we've been blessed with, GL Homes and so many other partners in our community. And part of it is maintaining them, loving them, respecting them, making certain that they are always part of our world and keeping them up to date on what we're doing. Something as simple. And this one is the queen of birthday cards, and she's taught me birthday cards and thank you cards. And
I'm a big stationery buyer.
Oh my gosh.
I love a good handwritten note.
She's birthday cards for husbands, and when someone's sick you send flowers.
Sure.
And so I think, but the important piece moving forward, I think when you think a corporate partnership with nonprofits, it's maintaining a relationship that will allow you both to go into the future right together, and to understand that you come from different worlds, but you got to like each other.
You gotta like each other, and you also you both mutually want to see each other just do good. You want it. You're like cheerleaders for each other. Is how I would see that. I think the word
here is authentic, right? It is a genuine relationship.
Yeah.
It's not transactional.
Correct.
Because there are people you see coming, and whether that's in the corporate world, the government world, the nonprofit world, when you see that person making a beeline for you, you just want to turn and walk in the other direction, because they don't want to know truly how you're doing or how your kids are.
You just know they're looking for something.
Absolutely. If that person has an agenda, and we all know who they are, and we just don't want to
be
interact.
That person.
Right.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that.
Have a genuineness and authenticity to your relationship. Find some common ground.
Yeah, I think that's huge. So if you're saying no to somebody, so we know that if our missions don't align and maybe we're just not a good person.
Right.
I mean, what other things might be reasons why somebody would get turned away?
Sure. So I'm not going to say it's not a good person, but maybe there are some habits, some behaviors, maybe some just some professional goals that maybe you need to focus on a little better. So be organized.
Okay.
Follow up. If you say you're going to follow up with me, please follow up. I, more often than not, have to chase folks down. Hi. And I will, trust me, I'm the person who said, when you tell me it's going to be, you're going to give this to me in a week, I just wrote it on my calendar that I'm expecting to hear from you on this day. I might give you another day or two.
Right.
But then half my job seems to be chasing people down for the follow-up. And look, if you can't adhere to that deadline, life happens, other projects happen, then be proactive and maybe a couple of days before, listen, I'm not going to be able to make this deadline, but if you give me X number of more days, I appreciate somebody being, because they're being mindful and they're being attentive.
Yeah. Respectful of your time. And,
And I think tenacity is an important piece of relationships. So Sarah and I, we can't really make a big announcement, but we've been working on our project for not 1 year, not 2 years, not 3 years, 4 years.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, 4 years. Now it may create.
It may be the death of us.
Absolutely. I mean, there are many times.
See it to fruition.
Exactly. Many times I look at her and I'll say, "What the heck were we thinking?"
And I'll say, I have no idea.
I said, I think it was just a COVID moment. We were like, "What were we doing?" But the tenacity of that and that particular project, I think, has as painful as it's been for so many of us. We know that at the end, it will be a game changer for those that we serve. It'll be a game changer for GL Homes. And the tenacity, there's nobody I would want to have do this 4-year journey with than Sarah.
Oh my
because
gosh, I
it's
love
just this constant back and forth. Do we do it? Do we not do it? I mean, it was really something, but it has strengthened, it's totally strengthened our agency, and I know it's strengthened your agency also.
Okay.
So we're going to announce that hopefully in the next 60
Don't
days.
even say it. Don't even say it, because we've said that for the last, I mean, it's been how many Christmases,
60
Thanksgivings,
days.
Labor Days?
I'm going to predict 60 days
I'm excited.
within 60 days.
Ooh, I'm gonna keep looking. You guys, you okay? I mean, at the end, I know we say anyway, like follow GL Homes, follow the Lord's Place, but not that we're holding Diana to it, but 60 days.
60 days. I
Write
think
that
sooner.
on your calendar.
Yeah,
We'll see.
It's on Sarah's calendar.
That's right. Yeah. There have been a lot of these days that have come and gone on my calendar.
Oh my gosh,
And
so
we can
funny.
laugh about it. I mean, but it has
Right.
been, it is. So I think relationships with nonprofits and corporations are those kind of tenacity, right?
Yeah.
It's not a quick fix. I mean, that's just not it's not, any relationships aren't,
Yeah,
right?
no.
So if you really are in this together, you're in this together through the ups and downs and the goods and the bads, and being able to be honest with each other.
Yeah.
We would never say those words to the rest of the team, but when we're alone, we'll go like, what the heck
Yeah.
were we thinking?
Right.
So, but at the end, it's about building that relationship, sure.
Right.
Which is wonderful. So, like I said, we could sit here and talk like all day long, especially with you two, because you guys are awesome. At the end of the day, what's like the takeaway, the one thing you would say to people out there about trying to get a partnership going? And I mean, we talked about longevity. You guys have that down, and I get that. But right off the bat, what would be the number one thing you would say to get in the door and get that partnership off the ground?
So I'm going to give you, how about 3?
Perfect.
I'm just going to make up my
Lay it
own
out.
rules as
Let's
we
do
go.
it. Let's do it.
So I'd say honesty.
Yep.
Creativity.
Okay.
And something that seems to be underrated but should be highly valued, and that's common sense.
Okay. Perfect.
And mine's going to be communications. You got to have communications, and you have to have patience. I'm going to tell you, patience is going to be really important. And then for me, in all my relationships, it's got to be mutual respect with each other. You got to respect each other at all
Perfect.
times.
I love it. So, anything before we have to cut this off? And this
The
goes.
time has flown by.
It
here
goes
with
too
you.
fast. That's what I said. I'm like, I could have you guys back and we could talk about just events. But what are maybe a couple big events for the rest of this year that people need to look forward to? I know you guys do a ton, but
Well, we have our big breakfast coming up always, and
Okay.
GL Homes is always, that's the Thursday before Thanksgiving, has been that way for 15 years.
Okay.
It's a sold out event. We put the tickets on, and within, I don't know, a week. We're usually sold
Kravis
out.
Center, Cohen Pavilion, yes, in West
Oh,
Palm
yeah.
Beach.
Okay,
Yes.
done. I'm putting that on my
So,
calendar.
and it's a tearjerker event, and it's nothing like any other event in the
But
community.
inspirational.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Inspirational.
Perfect.
Oh, yeah. So it's not like any other event, right?
not.
Is that
It's
fair to
not.
say? So it's really not. So it's a wonderful. That's one of the biggest events coming up.
It's called Big Breakfast.
It's called the Ending Homelessness
Oh,
Breakfast.
the Ending Homelessness
Yes,
Breakfast.
yes.
The Big
Ending-
Breakfast.
but for us, it's
Yes.
the Big Breakfast.
Got it.
So that's something we always look forward
Okay.
to. I will tell you before we leave, one
Yeah.
of the things I want to share with my nonprofit friends is to not be afraid to ask. I think that oftentimes people get all the way to here.
Yeah. I would
And we just talked about this
wholeheartedly agree
yesterday.
with you.
We did.
We just and I kept saying to her
'Cause
about
it
a
feels-
call, did they ask you? I want to know, was there ask there? I'm like, because I say to my colleagues all the times, if you do not ask, you will not get an answer. Whether
If you
it's
don't
yes
ask,
or no.
you don't get.
Correct.
Exactly.
Whether that's a yes or a
Is
no.
that correct? I mean, I think so.
Yeah.
Asking is going to be critically important as people start building those relationships. And don't be afraid. I mean, I'm sure, Sarah, have you ever been offended by a big ask? Have you
No,
ever?
I haven't.
right.
No, I haven't. Look, I may not be able to give that
Right.
answer that minute.
Correct.
I may have to go back and ask our team, or maybe it's something we have to reflect on. There also may be, if you will, a little bit of a negotiation. Well,
Right.
we're okay with this, but would you mind either adding or deleting something that you have proposed? And
Correct.
so there is a little bit, maybe even a counter offer
Yeah,
there.
yeah. But
Okay.
ask.
Ask.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think a lot of times people, just in general, like you feel weird asking somebody for something. You don't want to offend them. You don't want to, I don't know.
Let me remind our colleagues. You're not asking for yourself. You're asking for your agency.
Which is
Okay?
huge.
And that is very different. And so you've got to take your personal ego and you got to put that away.
Yep.
Because I'm not saying no to you. And I will tell you in the years and I love to raise money. So I love it. So my question always is when someone says no to me, it's really a time for me to reflect on, was the ask the right ask, right?
Sure.
Did we ask too much? Did we ask too little? And then for me to go back and say, why didn't that feel good to you? Because I want to know that moving
Sure.
forward. And it's, once again, it's this communication,
It
right?
is.
It's being able to say, I was trying to think, there was something a while ago that you said, I don't want to do. What was that? I can't remember what it was. And I thought, oh, okay. And I,
No harm, no foul. I don't even remember
you,
that.
I don't, there
She
was
said no.
something a couple years ago, yeah, that
And I
I
went,
asked, yeah, you're like, yeah, and I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, whatever. All right.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
remember saying, I think I said, well, I'll be back with something else.
That's fine. And I said, that's fine.
Yeah, great.
Exactly.
Well, I feel like I could probably have Diana come back on and just talk about fundraising.
Yeah,
Like we could probably take a whole nother time to do that because again, that is the crux and the backbone of like so many nonprofits.
That and the
it's-
board of directors. So that's the other piece.
Oh, okay. See, that's another topic.
Oh, you have no idea.
Okay.
Board of directors can either, Sarah knows this, can
Make or
either
break
make
you.
or break you.
Okay, we're gonna have
So
to
that's
do like
another whole
We're gonna do like a
conversation.
10-part series with Diana, and we're gonna have Sarah come back just because
She's got
all
the
info
experience
too.
too,
Yes,
yes.
I know. I love this.
Yes.
This has been fun. Thank you.
So fun.
Oh, it was
Thank
so
you
much
guys.
fun.
And like I
Thank
said,
you.
it goes so fast, and I can't thank you enough for joining me
Thank
here
you.
today.
Pleasure. Thank
And
you.
just invaluable information here, and I so appreciate having you both here.
Thank you. Thank
So
you. So
Thank you.
great to be here.
And thank you again for following along with us at 501c TV. And thank you to Kana House Studios, Wellington's first and only social content creation studio. They have an amazing space here, you guys, so check them out. And then, of course, we'll put up all the social handles, so please follow GL Homes. They have incredible, beautiful properties, you guys, and they're going up all over Florida, and they do amazing work. It's very important to find those companies that are so philanthropic
Yes.
and support our nonprofit partners, especially right here in our backyard. And Diana with the Lord's Place, check their website out, you guys. You will be in there. Just the programs they have are amazing. Like I said, that's a whole nother podcast just on you guys, but. Over 40 years of amazing work that they've done here. So I thank you guys both
Thank you.
so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you.
Thanks.